Hey Cheve, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tesvav, Daf 15 of Masechta Sukkah. Daf 15 is interesting. We we have two Mishnahs today on Daf Tesvav. The first Mishnah really is almost like a continuation of yesterday's Mishnah that we saw about using planks. There's machlokus Rav and Shmuel, using planks, machlokus in Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir about if you're allowed to or not. And then we get to a new Mishnah which talks about using skewers and stuff, different things also for schach. So let us start at the very top of the page with the new Mishnah. Tikkur she'ena le'er ma'aziva. Very, very, very interesting. So like a roof of like a house, right? You should have like a roof of a house, and there's no like pitch on it. There's no tar, so it's easy to just move things around if you need to in order to accommodate it being a sukkah, right? So meaning, of course, if you just build a house, you can't use that as a sukkah, even if technically speaking, the roof could be used for schach. You can't use it as a sukkah because it's not made for a sukkah. It's made for your house. Right, it's not even according to Beis Hillel, who says that you don't need to make a sukkah l'shem sukkahs, but it still needs to be l'shem shade, l'shem tzel. This was made for protection, so therefore that doesn't work, right? However, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Beis Shammai Omer, so says Rabbi Yehuda that according to Beis Shammai, mifakpek v'no telachas mibentaim. So you have to do two things in order to make it sukkah usable. Number one is that you have to pick up all the planks and put them back down again. Right, and Rashi points out that stam planks are 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim, which is taka important. It's going to be significant, right? Meaning we're talking about planks that are 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. Okay, because that's stam a house, as we said. That's the whole point of Gezeres Tikra, is that the standard planks they use for your roof are 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. So now we're saying that according to Rabbi Yehuda, now this definitely sounds like Rav, right? The Gemara is going to ask that, but it definitely sounds like Rav, who says the machlokas is dafka when the planks are 4 tefachim wide. So that's where we have the machlokas between Rabbi Meir and Rab Yehuda, right? So tikra she'ena le'er ma'azeva. So you have this roof of a house that has planks that are 4 tefachim wide, but there's no pitch, there's nothing, no tar or whatever holding it together. So you could just easily pick them up and put them down. So Rabbi Yehuda Omer says that Beis Shammai Omer says so Rabbi Yehuda who says that these planks are kosher. So he says, look, according to Beis Shammai, mefakbek v'no telachas mibentaim. So all you have to do is, so there's two things you have to do in order to make it kosher for a sukkah. You have to pick each one up and put it back down, okay? And you have to remove every other one and fill it in with schach, okay? Uveis Hillel omrim, and say Beis Hillel mefakbek ono telachas mibentaim. Whereas Beis Hillel says that you have to, Beis Hillel says do either or. Either you could put them back up and put them back down, or you could remove every other one. You don't have to pick up all of them, just every other one you pick it up and you replace it with kosher schach. Reb Meir Omer says, Reb Meir no telachas mibentaim ve'enu mefakbek. Says Reb Meir, no, that is not going to work. You're going to have to remove 50% of the schach and fill it in with kosher schach. Now according to Reb Meir, of course, these planks are no good because they're 4 tefachim. So according to Rav and Shmuel, Reb Meir would say that this plank, this schach is no good. It would be like we learned yesterday that you can kind of remove 50% of them, and then assuming that you have a sukkah that's 8 amos wide, so then you can kind of if the kosher schach meets in the middle, you could say dofen akuma, whatever it is. So what do we see? So we see machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Meir regarding planks that are 4 tefachim wide. Rabbi Yehuda says, look, according to Beis Shammai, you have to do two things. You're gonna, right? Meaning this is a house. This is a house, so in and of itself it's not a kosher sukkah, but technically speaking, the schach is kosher schach. So Rabbi Yehuda says, look, the schach is technically kosher, but it's a house. You have to just make it usable for a sukkah. So he says, look, according to Beis Shammai, you have to do two things. You have to lift up the schach and put it back down, and you have to remove every other plank. According to Beis Hillel, says Rabbi Yehuda, all you have to do is just, look, there's an issue of the fact that it's a house. So you just have to remove 50% of the planks and remove them with schach, and now you have a kosher sukkah. Because after all, the planks itself are fine. You just have to do an activity to make sure that to show that you're making it for a sukkah. So remove half of the schach with kosher schach, and then it's fine. Rabbi Meir says, no. What you have to do is yudavka. You can't. Right? You have to just replace sort of every other one, and Davka, it's Reb Meir who says that the schach is pasul schach, and it would meet in the middle, dofen akuma, that whole ukim that we had yesterday. Fine. Pishlam Beis Shammai. Okay, so now says the Gemara, I understand the opinion of Beis Shammai. Tamayim Mishum Taisav Lo Menasui. I get it. According to Beis Hillel, I don't know what I just said a minute ago, but you have a choice, right? Either you could use 50% of them, or you could pick them up and put them down, right? So according to Beis Hillel, you have one of those two choices. So I get why you have a choice according to Beis Hillel. If you want, either you could take all the planks, pick them up, and put them back down, or if you want, you can remove, leave 50% of them, but remove 50% of them with schach. So I get it. Beis Hillel's whole thing is, well, this thing is a house, right? It's a house. Now, technically speaking, these planks that are 4 tefachim wide, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you're allowed to use as schach. So it's technically speaking a kosher sukkah. It would be a kosher sukkah, but it's just a house right now. So all you have to do is you have to make it into a sukkah. How do you make it into a sukkah? You have two options. Yeah, either you could pick up all the schach and put it all back down, and then you're showing that you're now making it l'shem sukkah. That's one option. Another option is that just take 50% of the schach, remove it, and replace it with other kosher schach. But either way, you take your choice, do whichever one you want, and either way, it's an activity, it's an indication that you're building a sukkah now, you're not using it as your house. So again, B'Shlomo Beis Hillel, I understand Beis Hillel says you could do either or. Taimayu mishum taisav lo min asui. It's an issue of taisav lo min asui that the sukkah right now is made in a puzzle way because it's a house. You have to make it into a sukkah. So you just either pick everything up and put it down, or remove 50% of the schach and replace it. So either you could remove 50%, either you could pick everything up and put it back down, and that's a maisa. Or remove and replace 50% of the schach, and that's also a maisa that you're doing, and that's fine. But what's the deal with Beis Shammai? He says you have to do two things. He say you have to both pick up and put down the schach, and you have to replace 50% of it. If the thing was, if it was an issue of taisav lo min asui, then just do one of them. Either pick them all up and put it down, or replace 50% of them. Either way, that's a good enough indication that you're making it for a sukkah. And if we're concerned about gzeres tikra, that we're scared that you might, if you sit under this roof, you might end up sitting in your house. Well then, benotel achas mibentayim sagi. Well then, while picking up and putting it down might not make a difference because you're still going to be sitting under all of this under all these planks, and we're still going to say gzeres tikra. But by removing 50% of them and replacing them with schach, that should be enough. We're not concerned that you're just going to end up sitting in your house. So la'olam mishum gzeres tikra. So really, it is an issue of gzeres tikra that you're concerned that you might end up sitting in your house. And this is what it's saying. Af al pi shemifakbek, that even if you pick up all the schach and put it down, ino talachas mivintayim in ilo lo. No, the way to explain Beis Shammai is that it's an issue of gzeres tikra, that we're concerned that if you sit under this roof, you might end up sitting in your house. And what it's saying is that even if you picked up all these planks and put them back down, it makes no difference, because it's not an issue of taisav lo min asui, it's an issue of gzeres tikra. And in order to make sure that this is different than your house, and you're not going to sit in your house, you have to, you're still going to have to remove and replace 50% of the schach according to Beis Shammai. Fine. Now remember, this is according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is explaining the machlokas Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, and therefore planks are kosher schach. Right, this schach is technically kosher schach. But Rabbi Yehuda is saying that even according to Beis Shammai, we are still concerned about gzeres tikra, and this plays out in that if the entire roof is these planks, we might end up sitting in your house, so we say remove 50% of them. Fine. So that's what Beis Shammai is saying, that you have to remove 50% of them, and it's not enough to just pick them up and put it down. Even if you pick all of it up and put it down, still Beis Shammai would say you have to replace 50% of them. Fine. If this is the case, Ema Seifa. But if we continue in the Mishnah, what does it say? Reb Meir Omer, says Reb Meir, Notel achas mi bentayim avalo yifakpek. What do you do? What's Reb Meir's opinion? Reb Meir's opinion sounds like exactly what Beis Shammai is saying. You got to remove 50% of the schach and replace it with kosher schach. Reb Meir, I knew Beis Shammai. Reb Meir is saying the same thing as Beis Shammai. So the Gemara answers, Achi Kamer. This is exactly what it's saying. Lo nechleku Beis Shammai Beis Hillel b'davar zeh. What Reb Meir is saying is that he's arguing against Reb Yehuda and saying it's no machlokus between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Meaning, Reb Yehuda was saying that there's a machlokus between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai says that you have to, remove the 50% of the schach. Beis Hillel says that you have to either remove the 50% of the schach, or you can pick them up and put them down. Reb Meir is arguing and saying, no, there's no machlokus between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. They both agree, like we explained Beis Shammai, which is you remove 50% of the schach and you replace it with kosher schach. My Kamash Malan. Now ask the Gemara, what's the chiddush of this Mishnah? To Reb Meir Islay Gzeres Tikra, Reb Yehuda Leislay Gzeres Tikra. What are we teaching over here? That according to Reb Yehuda there's no Gzeres Tikra, and according to Reb Meir there is Gzeres Tikra. That Reb Yehuda says it's kosher schach, and Reb Meir says it's pashul schach. We already know that. V'ayfligu ba chada zimna. We already saw this machlokas once already. Titnan, as we learned in the previous Mishnah, Mesachrim bin Asarim, Divrei Reb Meir. The Reb Meir says that you're allowed to make use planks for schach. Reb Meir oser. Reb Meir says you're not allowed to use planks for schach. So we see that Reb Meir is concerned about Gzeres Tikra. Reb Yehuda is not concerned about Gzeres Tikra. This seems to be the same machlokas playing out in our Mishnah over here. So what's the chiddush? So Amar B'chia bar Abba Reb Yochanan. It says Reb B'chia bar Abba in the name of Reb Yochanan. Reisha ben Asarim Meshupin Askinan. Aha! Chevra, do you hear what the Gemara is saying over here? Amar B'chia bar Abba Reb Yochanan says Reb B'chia bar Abba in the name of Reb Yochanan. Reisha ben Asarim Meshupin Askinan. Reb B'chia bar Abba wants to argue in the name of Reb Yochanan that the first Mishnah, where we're talking about these planks, where Rabbi Yehuda says it's kosher and Reb Meir says it's possible, is talking about smoothed out planks. Smoothed out planks. And the question is, do we have to be concerned about Gzeres Kalim? So we wanted to explain the previous Mishnah about the planks that are let's say 4 tefachim wide. So Rabbi Yehuda says, don't worry about it, you can use them, we're not concerned about Gzeres Tikra. Rabbi Meir says, you can't use them because we are concerned about Gzeres Tikra. Rabbi Yochanan wants to change that and say, no, the first Mishnah is not about Gzeres Tikra, it's about Gzeres Kalim. Meaning we're talking about planks that are not necessarily 4 tefachim wide, but they're smooth. They're like made into pshute kle'etz. And therefore, pshute kle'etz, of course, they're not makabatum, and you can use them as schach. However, the question, are we concerned that if you use pshute kle'etz that are smoothed out, and you use that as schach, which is kosher schach, but might you end up using other kalim that are makabatum, which would be pasul schach? Rabbi Yehuda says that no, we're not concerned, and you can use these smoothed out planks. And Reb Meir says we are concerned about Gzeres Kalim, that if you use this schach, you might end up using other schach that are real Kalim, that are Mkabatum and not allowed. So therefore Reb Meir says that it's not allowed in the previous case, in the previous Mishnah, and this Mishnah is talking about Gzeres Tikra. So Yochanan wants to argue that previous Mishnah is about Gzeres Kalim, whereas this Mishnah is talking about Gzeres Tikra. Now, fact the Gemara, what about according to Reb Yehuda Amarav that we learned about on Daf Yud Beis and Beis, that we said that if you use for schach these arrows, these like handles of the arrows that are male kshera, that's pshute kle'etz and it's kosher. B'nekevas psulos, but if they're female, so then it's pasul. And we didn't say that you're not allowed to use the male ones out of concern that you might end up using the female ones. That was fine. There was no problem. So we say what? So we don't seem to be having an issue with Gzeres Kalim. So that doesn't really seem to be an issue. So at least according to Reb Yehuda Amarav. But Hacha Nami Lo Nigzar Nisar Meshupin Atu Kalim. So therefore, just like over there we weren't concerned about, we didn't say that you're not allowed to use the Zacharim because you might end up using the Nekevos here also. We're not going to say that you're not allowed to use the smooth planks because you might use the ones that are Kalim. No, we're not concerned out of that. Reisha pliye b'gzeres tikra, v'seifa pliye b'gzeres tikra. Rather, it's like we initially explained. They're both gzeres tikra. Both the previous Mishnah and this Mishnah are gzeres tikra. That, can you use a plank that's 4 tefachim wide, because maybe it's, you might end up sitting in your house or not. That's the previous Mishnah, that's this Mishnah. V'ifligu b'tar tezimnei lamali. Why do I have to argue about it twice? Say for Rabbi Yehuda, dika amr le Reb Meir. That this Mishnah is basically a continuation of the previous Mishnah. The previous Mishnah was that if you have these planks that are 4 tefachim, let's say, so Reb Yehuda says they're kosher. We're not concerned about Gzeres Tikra. Reb Meir says they're pasul, because we are concerned about Gzeres Tikra. Now this Mishnah continues, and now Reb Yehuda says, well, 1 second. There's a machlokas between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai is concerned about Gzeres Tikra, therefore he says you have to remove 50% of them. Beis Hillel is not concerned about Gzeres Tikra, therefore he says it's just an issue of Taisev Lo, but also you'd either pick them up and put them down or swap out of them. So therefore, Reb Yehuda de Ka'amr le Reb Meir, the Reb Yehuda is saying to Reb Meir, Amaika Asar ben Asar Mishum Gzeres Tikra? Why are you saying that these boards that are 4 tefachim wide are not allowed? Because of Gzeres Tikra? Haisvara le Beis Shammai, who? This is the Islu, Beis Hillel lo gazre. This is Beis Shammai's opinion. Reb Meir, you're concerned about Gezeres Tikra. Gezeres Tikra is something that Beis Shammai is concerned about. Why would you hold like Beis Shammai? Reb Yehuda argues, I'm holding like Beis Hillel, who's not concerned about Gezeres Tikra. They're only concerned about Taisav Lo Mina Asui. But you, Reb Meir, you're holding like Beis Shammai. To which Reb Meir responds and he says, no, there's no machlokas Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Rather, both of them agree, like me, both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree that we do say Gezeras Tikra, and therefore you'd have to remove 50% of them, so that it's clear that you wouldn't end up, because half of them are according to Reb Meir, half of them would actually be puzzle, and then 8 Amma Sukkah, that whole thing. Fine. Now says the Gemara, so I understand according to Rav, right, that the machlokas is when there's 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. That's the whole thing of this Gezeres Tikra, right? Tikra she'en alei mazeva, right? We're talking about this house, and a house uses. Everyone agrees that a house uses boards that are 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. We seem to be seeing the machlokas of Yehuda and Reb Meir in that context of 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. Reb Meir is like Gezeres Tikra, Reb Yehuda is like Gezeres Tikra. Well, if you're like Shmuel, who says that the machlokas is when the plank is less than 4 tefachim, is between 3 and 4 tefachim, but if the plank is 4 tefachim, everyone agrees that that it's puzzle. Seifa, my pligi, then what are they arguing about in the Seifa, right? I thought that everyone agrees, according to Shmuel, that if it's 4 tefachim wide, it's puzzle. So what are they arguing about, Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda, in this later Mishnah? We're talking about planks that are 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. What are they arguing about? I thought everybody says it's puzzle. So it'd be too late, Tikra, kol miflagei. My savar betela ba'achi, my savar ba'achi lo betela. So we're saying, well, about being mavatal, a roof. Meaning, the previous Mishnah was talking about kilu lichatchila. Kilu, am I allowed to use am I allowed to use planks that are 4 tefachim wide in order to make a sukkah? And says Shmuel, everyone agrees, no, you're not. If you're building a sukkah, you're not allowed to use planks that are 4 tefachim wide in order to use them for your schach. Everyone agrees that you're not allowed to, according to Shmuel. However, this Mishnah is talking about something else. This Mishnah is talking about, I already have this house. This house has these boards that are 4 tefachim wide for my roof. The question is, now I want to use them as a sukkah. What can I do in order to use them so what can I do in order to be able to use this house now as a sukkah? Rabbi Yehuda says, look, Lemaisa, it would be enough to just lift them up and put them down and show that you're making it l'shem sukkah. Already at that point, we're not going to say Gezeres Tikra anymore. Whereas Rabbi Meir says, no, it's not enough. You actually have to remove 50% of them. So again, according to Shmuel, everyone would agree that if you're making a sukkah, it says according to Shmuel, both Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda agree, if you're making a sukkah, you're not allowed to use planks that are 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. However, if you already have like this house that has these planks that are 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim, and now you want to use it as a sukkah, so Reb Yehuda will be lenient over here and say, look, you're already going through the trouble of like lifting up all the boards and putting them down. You're clearly indicating that that you're making it l'shem sukkah, and that should be enough. Reb Meir says, no, we still have to be concerned about Gezeres Tikra, and it's only kosher if you remove 50% of them and replace it with schach, and then it would have to be 8 amos wide and meet in the middle, whatever it is, according to Reb Meir. Says the new Mishnah, Amekares ukasu b'shfudin or baruchos amita. Okay, if you use for schach like skewers or bedposts, okay, these are things that are not allowed to be used for schach, but you use them in order to just as a support. Like you put support, I don't know, I assume many people probably put beams across the top of their sukkah and then kind of lay down, roll out the schach on top of that. So if you use these like beams for support, so as long as there's space between these beams, so then, that are equal to the width of the beam, so then that would be acceptable. As we learned the other day, that if you dig out, if you have like a pile and you dig it out, in order so that then memela you'll hollow out like a sukkah, it doesn't work. Aha! Chavi, do you remember back into I think it was the second parak of Eruvin, about like different hilchos mechitza. So if you have, so it says that I remember that we had this machlokas in our papa and Huna Breder of Yeshua. It was complicated. So it's not going to be complicated here though. Lemit Avatuvta of Huna Breder of Yeshua, the itmar that it was stated in Eruvin, parutz ki omed. if you have a fence that is equal parts breach and wall, right? So you have like, let's say like, one piece of fence space. So it's equal. And each space is more than 3 tfachim. So if it's equal parts, space and wall, so then Rav Papa Amar Mutter, so Rav Papa says you can carry there, so consider a wall. Rav Huna Bar Rav Yeshua Amar Aser, Rav Huna Bar Rav Yeshua says it's Aser. So we see that equal parts, wall and space is not allowed, and yet over here our Mishnah is saying that as long as you just have equal parts, puzzle, bedposts and stuff and space, that would be acceptable. Amalach Rav Huna Bar Rav Yeshua, Rav Huna Bar Rav Yeshua would respond to my kimosim benichnas v'yotzer. Rav Huna Bar Rav Yeshua would respond, no, what it means in the Mishnah is that it's not going to be exact. I mean, it's impossible to make it exact, right? Meaning, if you have bedpost space, it's probably going to be a little bit more space. You can't be exact for efshel tzamtzim. But what if you make it exact? So Rabbi ben Maidif. So Rabbi says no. The Mishnah is dafka talking about where you have to leave extra space. So kilu, you have bedpost space. You have to leave more space than bedpost, and you'll be filling in that space with schach. Rava says, look, you can even say that it's talking about where you're not leaving extra space. It's exact. But meaning, but at the end of the day, so how are you going to put up your schach? The way that you put up your schach is that you'll lay the schach down on top of these puzzle things perpendicularly. Right? So therefore, even if you have like a bedpost or something, and you're laying it down and leaving mamish equal parts bedpost and schach, but then if you lay down the schach like perpendicularly on top of it, well then you're going to have, you're going to end up having more schach than you are going to be having bedpost. And then by simply putting larger, volumes of kosher schach, on top of these spits perpendicularly, so then you're these, spits or bedposts, whatever it is, so you're going to have just larger quantities of kosher schach lying on top of these posts perpendicularly, so then it's going to nullify, be mavatal the posts, and you will have kosher schach. That was Daf Tesvav of Masechta Sukkah. We kind of continue with Daf Tesvav, discussing the machlokas between Reb Meir and Rebbe Yehuda about planks that are like 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim. So Reb Yehuda says, look, there's machlokas between Reb Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel on this matter. Beis Shammai is concerned about Gzeres Tikra, right? They're concerned that if you have these planks that are 4 tfachim wide by 4 tfachim wide, you have to remove 50% of them, so that way it won't look like your house anymore, and we won't say Gzeres Tikra. Beis Hillel, on the other end, is not concerned about Gzeres Tikra, and they say, look, the only problem here is that you didn't make it for it's not a kosher sukkah, so you just have to either pick them up and put them down, or replace half of them. You just have to do something to make it taisiv lo min also, but there's no concern of Gzeres Tikra, right? That's Reb Yehuda's argument, and he says, look, but Reb Meir, according to you, you're basically holding like Beis Shammai, who is concerned about Gzeres Tikra, and you have to pick up 50% of them and put them down. To which Reb Meir says, no, what do you mean? Both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree that you'd have to put it up and put it down, i.e. both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree that we are concerned about Gzeres Tikra. That was really, so now the Gemara said, look, this really makes sense according to Reb Meir. No, according to Rav, who says the machlokas is when it's 4 tfachim wide. What about according to Shmuel, who says the machlokas is taka when it's between 3 and 4 tfachim wide? So according to Shmuel, how does he understand this Mishnah? So interestingly, according to Shmuel, he says, look, the previous Mishnah is talking about milichatchila if you're going to be building a sukkah. So everyone agrees that you're not allowed to use a sukkah that is 4 tfachim. You're not allowed to use these planks that are 4 tfachim wide. However, if you're going to start with like a house that you want to sort of say, okay, how do I make this into a sukkah? Rabbi Yehuda would say, look, it's enough to just put them up and put them down. Whereas Rabbi Meir would say, no, we have to be concerned about Gzeres Tikra still, and you would have to, remove 50% of them and replace them with schach. We then got to a new Mishnah, which basically says that if you use like non-kosher poles, like to support your schach, so in that case, you have to leave like 50% of space. We said that, hey, it sounds like this is supporting Rav Papa, who says that if you have equal parts of parutz and omed, that is acceptable. What about Rav Huna Bar Rav Yeshua, who says you have to have more parutz than omed? So he'll say, yeah, this is talking about where there's 2 ways to understand it. You have Rav Ami, who says that we're talking about where there's more space than there is these puzzle things, and therefore more space than these puzzle things, and therefore there actually is going to be more schach than there space and schach than there is going to be these bedposts and things. According to Rav, you can even say it's equal space, but you're going to be putting the schach on top perpendicularly, and then Mamela you're just going to have more volumes of schach than puzzle stuff, and therefore it's going to be acceptable. Because the puzzle schach is going to be bottled to the kosher stuff. Chevre, that was the Tes Vav of Masechta Sukkah. I hope you have a great day. Cheers.